are back making a funky pair of wheel covers today. If you are new here, I cosplay, I use a wheelchair, and I like to make fun, creative wheel covers to match my cosplays. I've done the pumpkin wheels, I've done the fried egg wheels, and I even made the wheelchair. As you may have been able to tell from, you know, the context clues in the background, I do also collect dolls. And the thing about buying dolls, specifically Playline dolls, is they come with a lot of little plastic bits and bobs. So your doll might come with some doll-sized food or accessories. It's 2026, so every single Playline doll comes with a little doll-sized iPhone or tablet or something. I have ended up in this situation where I have a billion little plastic things and I feel bad throwing them away. Like, I don't want to just trash them, but I also don't really use them. I do some doll photography, but it's mostly about like the outfits and the doll itself. I'm not like pulling out the doll-sized party balloons very often, let alone 3 different doll-sized party balloons. You know those I Spy books? My vision is an I Spy book, but it's all doll accessories, and it's on a wheel cover that spins round and round. I did do some like prototype layouts to give you an idea of what we're going for. I wanted to make sure I had enough plastic pieces to really fill out these wheel covers, and I'm pretty sure I do. So for our structural layer, I will be using this sewable foam stuff once again. This is the exact same stuff I used for my fried egg wheels. It did a really good job keeping the shape and holding up that big yoke pillow thing. I didn't have quite enough of this piece to get both wheel covers, but it's fine because I just pieced it together. You know, piecing is period is what they say. As if sewing doll cell phones to wheel covers is a historical piece. For our actual fashion fabric, I have this white fleece. I knew I wanted a pretty neutral color because I would like these wheel covers to work with all doll cosplays if possible. So that would be like all my Cleos, all my Draculauras, all my Rainbow High cosplays, and who knows what else I'd cook up in the future. And what I really like about the fleece texture specifically is, you know, when you're like a little kid and you grab all your toys and you just dump them on the carpet to play with, I felt like that would be like the perfect backdrop for our little I Spy doll accessory situation. I do have a few things I can sew on. Ghoulia Monster High patches. These were embroidered by my friend Sewing Savage. And then I also have these Rainbow High, Shadow High little bags. Once these pieces are attached, then I can sew our fleece faux carpet layer to the structural layer. If you actually want to make a pair of wheel covers for your wheelchair, I have tutorials on how to do that that are going to be way easier to follow than this one. This video is going to focus a lot more heavily on the concept of sewing a bajillion doll accessories to a wheel cover. May I introduce my shot glasses full of Rainbow High combs. After you get enough doll clutter, you just have to get creative on how to store it, okay? And I want to add them in like a pattern around the wheel cover. I feel like hand sewing is going to be very tedious. It's going to take me a very long time, but is the best option for adhering so many little pieces onto a moving wheel cover. I just do not trust a lot of glues to hold, and especially if I'm going to be like going to a convention or something, I'd say like the #1 biggest thing this wheel cover needs to do is not litter a billion doll pieces around a convention center. Each comb is held on with 3 like placements of stitching, and it's stitched in both directions. So I feel like this is really on there, but for those who doubt, everything held up fine, and I truly cannot think of what I would be doing in my wheelchair that would amount to that amount of force on these. I feel like with these collages, it makes the most sense to go with the bigger pieces first and then work downward so that the small pieces can like fill in any gaps. I pulled out some really big pieces. These are doll wheelchair ramps, but I think this is just gonna be too big. I think this is gonna just be way too big. As I started sewing down these very unique shapes onto the wheel covers, there's something I learned very quickly. I need something for my thread to wrap around, go through, hold on to, for me to sew down these pieces securely. And ideally, 2 or more of those places per item. So I had a number of items that don't have any places to do that, as they don't even have like a little hole for the doll to hold it. They're completely flat. Like there's no way I can attach this laptop as it is now to the wheel cover without it potentially like sliding out or something. I got the idea that I could drill a hole through some of these so that I could have a place to attach the thread to. So here was my test piece. This is a little Barbie keyboard, and I used my Dremel tool to drill a hole in both sides. I don't like power tools, so for the rest of these, I'm gonna use a very awesome crafting resource I have, which is called my husband. He actually has a drill press, which seems like the better tool for the job. Have these really neat, precise holes. What are you doing, baby? What are you doing? You've made yourself a little hut out of all the spare fabric. I like to take the tedious hand sewing part of the project to tell you guys a little story related to what we're making. However, with this project, the whole thing is the tedious hand sewing part. So I thought maybe I would tell you guys a story and you could see the B-roll of all the funky little things that I am sewing down to these wheel covers. So you're probably thinking that sure is a lot of little plastic doll pieces. And I have a confession. This is only 75% of my power. So I got into doll collecting in early 2024 and I got into it with some friends, which was so much fun. I highly recommend like getting into this hobby with some other friends if you can. One of my friends was working on a dollhouse. So I probably gave like 25% of all my little plastic things to this friend for her dollhouse, and she would like maybe give me a doll in exchange or some clothing items. It actually worked really well to have our little trades, but unfortunately even doll houses don't need 27 iPhones or 4 laptops. So I feel like I once again just had a mountain of plastic pieces adding up. So I am very excited to do this project to give them all a little home, turn them into an art piece. Honestly, I am getting a little bit overwhelmed with the clutter of my doll collection in general. I don't know if it's serious enough to call it a no-buy, but it's pretty darn close. I'm really cutting back on the dolls I buy just because the clutter has become a little bit overwhelming. The only dolls I can think of that I'm still like, I'm gonna get those is the Moonspell Magic release, because disability rep in dolls is, that's how you get me, okay? Give me some disability rep in dolls and I will buy them. But otherwise I've been really like holding back on it. Because I just have a whole lot of dolls. Like I have so many, and I feel like I have enough dolls now. I could do like any video project I could want to do. Here is how the wheel covers are looking with all of the items that I would consider large, the bigger stuff. This is probably like maybe like half of everything I have to put on here. It's just everything else is much smaller. Durability test. I'm not gonna smash these against the floor super hard because I think the plastic will like legitimately break off of some of these things. I am purposely leaving the edges empty, and that's because I still need to get this under my sewing machine to sew the lining and sew all the connection tabs and stuff. So the edges will be a bit like this, honestly. I also don't want to be like pushing my chair and having my fingers catch on to like little doll pets and stuff. Next, I'll be moving on to the small items. So that is just going to fill in all the little gaps, and any way I can like layer things and add a little bit of like depth. I also want to try and do that. Sewing all these pieces onto the wheel cover is very tedious and it's taking many, many hours, but I actually am not suffering too much because all the items are pretty different, and it's kind of fun to look at each item and think about how I'm gonna sew it down and how it's gonna like sit on the cover or interact with something else on the cover. There's variety. I actually think these wheel covers are less tedious than my flower wheels. Everything was exactly the same. I had to make like 32 petals or something, but it took forever. I was like in petal sewing purgatory for like weeks. Little progress update on the wheel covers. They're looking very ispy book, very full. Here's what we have left in the Ziploc bag. Basically everything in here, just I cannot sew down. I really thought these like gift bags were gonna work, and there's one really clear hold up here for the thread, but there's just nowhere for the thread to grab on at the bottom, and it's just way too thick for drilling to make sense. This is some doll-sized hummus. It has one really clear hold here, but there's just like nowhere else to grab the thread, and it's round. And this guy, there are plenty of places where I could sew him down. I just feel like he's kind of ugly, and I'm having a bit of like a moral dilemma because I feel like he's too ugly for my wheel covers, but it's not his fault. He's just a little guy. So I did have a discussion with my drill press operator on this project, and I gave him a whole bunch of other stuff to drill. So all we have left is all these items that I had my husband drill for me. Then I also have a bag of like, I'd say tiny items. It's all basically like lipstick, pens. They're super, super tiny. I don't know if I want to deal with that. Just these few things and whatever else I might dig up looking through the craft room. So these wheel covers are designed to go with any of my doll themed cosplays, which raises the question, which cosplay will I be wearing in this video? And I felt like my big over-the-top costumes, like my G1 Cleo Denial, would kind of distract from the wheel cover. But I did still want to wear a cosplay because that's kind of the point of making these. So I really felt like the correct amount of cosplay was something like my closet cosplay Draculaura. However, the black vest I was using for that Draculaura is actually being sold with my Murda cosplay. So I need something else, and I got to thinking I would just make a new Draculaura closet cosplay. I know, I'm basically like opening a closet full of doll-themed cosplays and then saying, oh gosh, nothing to wear. Hello and welcome to the kitchen. What are we doing in the kitchen with my comically large dye pot, you may ask? Making a new closet cosplay. So I'm gonna dye this dress pink, and then I have some like black clothes I can layer around it, and I think that will work for Draculaura. I have some fuchsia all-purpose dye. This dress has a percentage of cotton in it, so I think this is gonna work. I hope it does. I do rather like this dress, but I haven't worn it in forever, and I feel like it needs to be a Draculaura cosplay. Oh yeah. Oh, that's like, that really is fuchsia. Oh my gosh. That is Monster High Draculaura pink for sure. I've decided that whenever I bring out the dye pot for cosplay, I'm also going to pick a Rainbow High doll to dunk and customize, because Rit Dye does really well dyeing Rainbow High doll hair. So this is Sunny. I believe this is her winter break doll, and I'm gonna try for like a yellow to pink gradient. I feel like we've really lost the plot at this point, because we somehow went from making doll-themed wheel covers to making a cosplay to wear with those wheel covers to customizing a Rainbow High doll. Show and tell time. Here's how Sunny turned out. I just love this hair color. Oh, it's so pretty. Such a beautiful pink. And then we have the dress. Here's how it dyed. Very happy with the dye job this time around. Here is our wheel covers with all the doll accessories attached. And I counted, and there is approximately 50 items per cover. So perhaps a final durability test. So the final thing to do is to add the lining and add all our connectors so these can actually attach to the wheelchair. For our lining layer, I have a muslin fabric just to cover the back where all of the stitching is. And I'll also be cutting out 12 rectangles to turn into connectors. Sew these little strips, and then I put them on the wheel cover by sandwiching them between our fashion layer and our lining layer and sewing around the perimeter. Then I can flip these inside out. Hopefully, I hope so. And I will be using the larger size snaps for these. These wheel covers are not heavy, but they are heavier than just my flat fabric wheel covers. So I just want to err on the side of caution here and use the bigger snap. It is time for the final reveal of the Doll Collector's wheel covers. Final thoughts on the Doll Collector's wheel covers. This is one of the projects that really just checks all the boxes for me. I think it's really creative. It was essentially free to make. This is all stuff that was taking space in my house, and now it's a work of art. So I love that repurposing. And I also think I'm gonna use these a lot. I have a lot of doll themed cosplays, but they also work great for other things too. We went antiquing yesterday, and these are great antiquing wheels. I also feel like because I used the thread method to attach everything, while it was long and tedious and I may have like a permanent callus on my finger from hand sewing, it can be a living project. I can remove stuff if it's a problem, or if I want to use it somewhere else. I can add stuff over time. I can move stuff around. I can just, with a seam ripper, rip off the threads and it looks like it was never there before. So I'm also hoping that like over the years you can watch these wheel covers like grow and develop and change as I move stuff around. It's such a fun concept to me. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! I spy with my little eye something that belongs to Cleo Denial. You got a few choices. There's one that I think is more obvious.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I think that's the most obvious one. This one is Cleo's sister's Nefra's, but I would have taken that as an answer. And this is like a pyramid makeup palette that's also Cleo's. I spy with my little eye something from Miraculous Ladybug. I'm hoping you know enough about the show to be able to pick it out. There's one that's really obvious. It's in the name, Miraculous Ladybug.
Oh, so there must be a ladybug somewhere. Oh.
There you go! This guy and this guy are also from Miraculous. So this is, yeah, this is a little ladybug.
All of your followers are yelling at their screens.
It's that one! It's Tiki, obviously! Fake fan!